Welcome. I'm Father Kevin, and this is Alert to Good News. Here's an audio reflection on the Gospel for Sunday, October 24, the 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time. In the Gospel, Jesus asks a blind man, "What do you want me to do?" How would we answer to Jesus? The man answers, "I want to see." And Jesus replies, "Your faith has saved you." And the blind man saw. Today, I would like to speak about another man who was once blind to who Jesus was and suddenly saw him as the living Christ, and that is St. Paul. Paul had been a rabid persecutor of the early Christians, and suddenly he was blinded by a light from above on his way to Damascus. That awesome visionary experience of Christ turned Paul's life upside down. He became God's chosen instrument to the non-Jews, one of the greatest evangelizers of Christianity. Paul had a keen insight into what makes people tick. The desire for happiness is universal. We often do things that we think will make us happy, only to end up miserable. Why? Because we sometimes confuse pleasure with happiness. Etched into Paul's vision of human beings was the words of Jesus. "I came so that they might have life and have it more abundantly." For Paul, the path to the fullness of life is discipline. When we eat well, exercise often, and sleep regularly, we feel more fully alive physically. And when we love, give priority to our significant relationships, when we encourage people, we feel more alive emotionally. And when we study the achievements of the human spirit, we feel more fully alive intellectually. And when we take a few moments each day with God in prayer, humbly and openly, we experience more fully the awesome presence of God. All of these life-giving endeavors require discipline. Discipline sets us free for our ultimate purpose, love of God and love of our fellow human beings. Paul grasped this and preached that Christ came to reconcile us, to reconcile you and me with the Father. And in doing so, Christ satisfies the longing that preoccupies our hearts. Christ is indeed the way, the truth, and the life. But who is this Jesus who captivated Paul and should captivate us? The gospel writers give us a glimpse of different ways to follow Jesus. In Matthew, Jesus is the long-awaited Messiah, the new Moses, the teacher, the rabbi, who instructs the disciples, especially in chapter 5 of the Beatitudes. Matthew invites us to teach as well, especially by example, by the practice of virtue. In Mark, Jesus is a suffering Messiah. He's very human, very approachable, and like the early Christians, we too may have to cope with suffering. We may wonder at times if God has forgotten us. But Jesus reminds us reminds you and me, do not fear, I am with you always. In Luke, Jesus is compassionate and forgiving, and salvation is for everyone. Remember the parable of the prodigal son. Luke challenges you and me to be compassionate and forgiving in our relationships with one another. In John, Jesus is noble, majestic, divine. Remember those words? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. Jesus invites the first disciples to stay with him. And John invites you and me to stay with Jesus. How? Especially in prayer. Jesus is more than any one person can describe. And so the question is, what image of Jesus inspires us to become the kind of person today that Jesus was in his day? And let that image captivate you and I the way it captivated so many holy men and women in Christianity, especially St. Paul. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may you always have a blessed day and be alert to good news.
Thank you for watching this video. You can see more videos here or simply subscribe by hitting the button below.